couple of months ago, I crossed $1 million in sales in my online education business, and I did it using just one platform, YouTube. And I never set out to grow a big channel, but along the way, I gained 1.8 million subscribers and 122 million views. I'm Asiya, and in this video, I'll show you how my business works, how I've optimized it to triple the revenue I'm getting from the same number of views, and how you can use YouTube to generate sales for your own business too. My business and channel is called Fast Track IELTS. I help young people prepare for an English proficiency test for non-native speakers, which people take to study or work in an English-speaking country. So the business model I chose for this business was very much shaped by the one I had before. So back then, I was running an education consulting company. And while it worked, I started to feel a bit overwhelmed by all the one-to-one work. So every client meant more calls and more of my time. And so when I thought about starting something new, I knew I wanted a completely different model, one that didn't rely on me being there all the time. So I chose what's called a low-ticket, high-volume business. So instead of working directly with clients, I'd create self-paced courses and sell them through YouTube. And what really appealed to me was that the cost of delivering each course was basically zero. So once the course was created, it could be sold over and over again. And the number of sales didn't depend on how many clients I could work with. It depended entirely on how many views I could attract on YouTube. And for an overworked consultant, it sounded amazing. And even though today I don't think that's the business model for the future, back then it felt both scalable and fun, so I decided to give it a go. To be honest, I didn't even know if it would work. I published a few videos on YouTube, just a touch amateurish, and with all the confidence I had, I created a $10 course. To my surprise, in the very first month, 27 people bought it, and I earned $270 without having to spend my time delivering the product. I still remember how happy I was every time I got a notification that someone bought the course. I think it took me an entire year to turn off those notifications. And that feeling that money could come in while I was on holiday or sleeping really motivated me to double down on this business and gradually wind down my consulting services. And that's exactly what I did. My growth on YouTube, I suppose, was reasonable, but not fast. It took 2 years to reach 100,000 subscribers and 6 years to reach 1 million. But when I got that golden button, it really felt like a huge milestone. And I do feel quite proud of it, as you've probably noticed. I know it doesn't directly reflect how much revenue a channel makes. And I know much smaller channels that are far more profitable. And actually, that's something I've learned firsthand. My views were growing faster than my revenue. I think many of us are a little too hooked on YouTube views. I definitely was. But some big channels out there don't generate much revenue. And for business owners, chasing views isn't the best strategy. In fact, having a smaller channel with more targeted views can be far more profitable. And that's exactly what I found to be true for me. So let me show you how I use YouTube to sell my courses, or here is how my sales funnel works. Every single person who ends up buying from me first discovers me through YouTube. So my goal isn't just to get more views. Is to get more views from people who are more likely to buy my courses. And how you reach them is a matter of your channel size. If you're just starting out, I think it's better to grow a channel where the content is tightly focused and appeals to your ideal clients. Later, once you've established yourself in your niche and your positioning is clear, you can start casting a wider net. But if you start too generic and wide, you may get views without attracting customers. These days, I see all my YouTube videos as falling into one of 3 categories. The first is discovery videos. These are the ones that are designed to appeal to a wider audience, something broad that gets attention from people who've never seen me before. Think of our Test Your Level video. It got hundreds of thousands of views, way more than other videos published around the same time. So those viewers wouldn't buy right away, but some of them stick around and continue watching. And that's where relationship videos come in. So these are videos that are generally helpful to my ideal clients. They don't drive much revenue because they are not aligned with my offers, but they deliver value and build trust and keep people coming back to the channel. And then at the bottom of the funnel are conversion videos. So these are closely aligned to my paid products. They solve the same problems and speak to the same audience. And that's where I promote my courses. I know a lot of people are hesitant to sell on YouTube. We've all heard the advice, jab, 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 hook, and we've been told to give value first and maybe promote later. And I do follow that in a way. So my discovery and relationship videos are all about value. But in my conversion videos, I include clear, direct promotions every time. And it works. Over a third of all my sales come directly from YouTube, and that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. One may argue that it works because my courses are low ticket. The most expensive right now is around $70. But I used the exact same strategy to sell my one-on-one consulting services in the business I ran previously, and that was in thousands of dollars. And the best leads I ever got were not from education fairs or partnerships or ads, they all came from YouTube. And in this business, that's a third of my revenue. There is one benefit of promoting directly in my videos. The cycle is much shorter than sending people to a lead magnet and a newsletter and then a welcome sequence and so on, which I also do. But there is another benefit of selling on YouTube. I once compared the list of people who've bought my courses with the list of email subscribers. And you'd think that almost all buyers should be on the list, right? That's what I expected, but 30% of my customers aren't email subscribers at all. They've never downloaded a freebie or received a newsletter, but they watched videos and bought courses. Now, promoting directly on YouTube is the first stream of my sales funnel. There is also the second stream, a more traditional one, YouTube to lead magnet to newsletter to promotional emails. And how well it works depends on how many people you're able to move through each stage. I've tested a few different approaches here, and what I've found works best for lead magnets is offering a hero lead magnet, something that's generally valuable and substantial. For example, on my exam preparation channel, the main lead magnet is a study plan with all the steps and all the resources. So it's something students can keep using throughout their preparation, and quite a few sales come from that study plan itself. And in this business, I wrote a full case study where I walk through how my business works more in depth than anything I could cover in a video, and it's presented as 25 lessons I've learned along the way. And I always leave a trackable link in the video description for people to download those lead magnets and for me to see how many downloads I get from each video. Basically, a lead magnet only works if it's valuable enough for people to leave YouTube, fill out a form, actually read it, and stick around to open future emails. Otherwise, they just become dead weight on your list, and that doesn't help anyone. Now, when it comes to the newsletter itself, I try to provide a mix of value and promotion. Generally, how much promotion you include in your content depends on your audience. For a business to customers, B2C, like students preparing for an exam, I tend to promote more directly and more frequently, and that's what gets the best results for me. But if you're working business to business or your audience is more mature and experienced, a softer approach might work better. Ultimately, it's something you can test. But there is one thing which applies to everyone. if you don't talk about your products, people won't buy. Yes, there will be a few super interested viewers who go out of their way to discover what you sell and buy it from you, but most won't. And it's up to you to tell them what's available and to find that golden middle between being seen as too pushy and not selling much. So I put this sales funnel in place a few years ago, and since then my revenue has tripled. And I'm not talking about getting more views. What I mean is I'm getting 3 times the revenue per 1,000 views I did in the past. And all that is thanks to one decision that allowed me to dramatically increase conversions in my business. In the beginning, I was doing what most people do. I would mention my courses or lead magnets, include the same links everywhere, and that was it. I'd see revenue at the end of the month, but I couldn't say where the sales came from. Then I started tracking links by adding so-called UTM parameters. You can see them at the end of the link sometimes, and they tell my website analytics that the click came from YouTube, it was a referral, and from which video there is a number and a date. So here are a few things I've learned by tracking my links. So first, some videos sell and others don't. As I mentioned before, discovery videos, those broader, more generic ones, don't sell well for me. They hardly convert at all, so I typically don't include any promotions in those videos. Over time, I've learned which topics sell better, and it's probably not surprising that the videos that go deeper and solve the same problem as my paid courses tend to convert best. But actually, I used to avoid making videos that were too similar to my courses because I was worried about cannibalizing my sales. But in reality, the more value I gave for free, the more people wanted to learn more. And the same goes for lead magnets. So some got many more downloads than others. And I found that lead magnets that complement the videos work much better than those that repeat the content. In the past, I also made smaller PDF guides for individual videos. They didn't get a lot of downloads, and as the business grew, it became harder to maintain them. So these days, I try to use just a few and make each one as valuable and evergreen as possible. Tracking my links and sales give me a clearer picture of what's actually working, and I could start making decisions based on real data. Of course, for the data to be meaningful, you need to have enough traffic. And if your channel is still small, the first step is to build up views. Once you have the traffic, even in modest amounts, you can start converting those viewers into buyers. And once there is enough scale to see what's working and what's not working, you can start optimizing everything, your funnel, your messaging, your products, to get more revenue from your views. Once you're happy with that, you go back to step 1 and try to get more views, and you repeat the process. I call it the view to value framework, and that's exactly what I'm gonna cover in more detail in my next video, and I'll link it here once it's released. Thank you so much for watching me today. Take care. Bye.